So there's this big story about Trump's trip overseas that everybody seems to be talking about. Here's Vice News on that story. Take our fate into our own hands. Germany distances itself from U.S. after Trump's first G7 showing. So they say German Chancellor Angela Merkel offered a grim appraisal of U.S. President Donald Trump's first meeting with leaders of the G7 group, saying Sunday that Europe can no longer rely on the U.S. and urging the region to take our own fate into our own hands. Merkel drew international headlines Sunday when speaking at an election campaign rally in Munich, just hours after concluding the tense and fractious annual meeting with the leaders of the G7 group of wealthy countries. The time in which we could completely depend on others are, to a certain extent, over, she told the crowd on Sunday. I've experienced that in the last few days. We Europeans truly have to take our fate into our own hands. Merkel, who concluded her speech by taking a drink from an oversized beer glass, added that while she would attempt to remain on friendly terms with all nations, even Russia, in the end, the citizens of the EU would need to shape their own fate. We have to know that we must fight for our future, for our future on our own, for our destiny as Europeans. Ivo Dalder, former United States ambassador to NATO, said Merkel's comments were hugely significant. Quote, "This seems to be the end of an era, one in which the United States led and Europe followed," he told the New York Times. So, everything I've seen on this is like, red alert, sound the sirens, let's all go nuts. This is crazy. Trump is shaking up the international order, and this is a giant deviation from policy post-World War II and all that stuff. Now, is it a giant deviation of policy since World War II? Yes. Do I think it's bad? No. No. Now, I don't think Trump is actually doing this for any sort of deep philosophical reason or ideological reason, like, I have a principled stance that, you fill in the blank. He's just a dunderhead. So he goes up there and he talks, I don't know, you need to take more responsibility for yourself for something, and you pay more dues, and we've been carrying the burden for far too long, and that's something. And, everybody in the mainstream media clutches their pearls and goes, oh, this isn't like every other president we've heard. Yeah, but they never, if you notice, all the coverage of this, they never go into, like, the details of why it would be a bad thing to move away from what we've done since World War II. There's just, like, an underlying assumption that, well, it's obviously bad. No, that's not obvious. Why? Why is that bad? Well, you change the international order and, then the U.S. is no longer the world's sole superpower. Okay, good. 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 What's up with this, like, default assumption of, like, well, obviously we should be like an empire and lead the world, and isn't that right? No! No! We have 7 different interventions going on right now. We have 800 military bases around the world that cost $100 billion a year to maintain. All the while that's going on, our infrastructure gets a grade of D+. Flint, Michigan doesn't have clean water, among other places in the U.S. that doesn't have clean water, that don't have clean water. Half the country makes $30,000 a year or less. We have over 400,000 homeless people. We got all these problems here at home, but the corporate media and establishment politicians have this default assumption of, like, oh, God forbid we don't look after the sake of Germany. Why don't we look after the sake of us, the U.S.? We don't look after our own citizens, but I'm supposed to care about Franz? No offense, Franz, but I'm not interested. And look, I get what they're saying. They're saying, well, I mean, come on, it's the U.S. and Russia. It's like they're butting heads. It's like the superpower clash, even though they're really not a superpower. Look at how wealthy their country is and how much they spend on military versus us. It's nothing. So, but the idea is, oh my God, Russia's a threat, Russia's a threat, Russia's a threat, but don't worry, the United States will really carry the burden and protect us if push ever came to shove. And Trump, again, not for any philosophical, ideological reason where he's principled and he's like, no, I think you should, like, you should look out for yourself type thing. He's just kind of a moron and blundering his way through shit, but he's accidentally correct. Like, yeah, go ahead, Europe. You beef up your own fucking defense. I know, you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say, hey, maybe the U.S. should look after our own problems, and we have a lot of them, and maybe you should look after your own problems. You're not allowed to say that because it deviates from what we've done since the end of World War II, but here, I'm fucking saying it, and I don't think it's on its face obvious that the U.S. should be the ones to be the bulwark against Russia, or to be the world's sole military superpower, or to, be responsible and look out for all of our NATO allies in a way where we continue to blow billions and billions and billions of dollars in the process, while people here at home are poor and hungry and miserable, and our country's fucking crumbling. So this is an issue where I actually agree with Trump, but again, I think Trump is right by accident. He just kind of stumbled into this, oh yeah, I don't know, you got to pay more and you got to carry your own burden more. And like Merkel's like fucking crybaby tour of like, we can no longer rely, we must take our fate in our own hands. Yeah, good, go, take your fate in your own fucking hands. I know, you're not Adolf Hitler, you're not going to become Nazi Germany again. So yeah, beef up your fucking defense. Take care of your own shit. Everybody else in Europe, beef up your defense. Take care of your own shit. And I know it's coming across like I'm saying this in a hostile way. I don't mean it in a hostile way. I just mean whatever happened to fucking common sense and everybody looks after their own situation. Again, like I said, we can't even get clean water in Flint, Michigan. Our infrastructure gets a grade of D+. Our financial system is a fucking joke. We got multi-trillion-dollar derivatives deals that are about to blow up in our face and tank the world economy along with it. And at the same time, we got to worry about maintaining all of our military bases and doing the defense for everybody around the world. I just don't buy that. See, here's the way you have to look at it. We're crafting everything from scratch. What role should the U.S. have? What role should any country have? I think the starting position is, oh, well, sure, we're going to have a military, of course, but maybe that military should only, I don't know, defend the nation. And yes, if there's some sort of genocide going on somewhere, we can all attack the problem together. The U.S. doesn't need to be a unilateral force that goes in and stops it. You can have international bodies like the UN and stuff. We all go in and attack that problem together. But outside of that, for using our military, why wouldn't we just use it for self-defense? If we're crafting everything from scratch, would the U.S. have to immediately spend billions and billions and billions of dollars to go look after the well-being of fucking Germany and Britain and Poland and Lithuania? No. We'd say, okay, how about you guys take care of your own shit and we'll take care of our own shit. Nobody in mainstream media will say this, and everybody will look at me like I'm fucking crazy for bringing it up. But I ask you, think about it logically. Think about it rationally. You're crafting everything from scratch. What role would you have the U.S. play in the world? Here's the role I would have us play in the world. The U.S. would take care of people in the U.S. We'd have universal health care, Medicare for all. We'd have free college. We'd have a living wage. We would end the wars, unnecessary wars that are creating more enemies. We would do a new deal for job creation, rebuild infrastructure, green technology revolution. We'd end the drug war, increase freedom and liberty when it comes to issues like that. So this is what I'd do. This is what we should do. And I find it weird that when Trump happens to stumble upon something that's actually a reasonable idea, like, yeah, let's no longer be this giant superpower. And again, he contradicts himself because half the time he's like, yeah, we're going to do more war and all that shit. And he does. He's increasing in Afghanistan and Syria and Libya and, Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq, and Yemen and Pakistan with the drone strikes. So he contradicts himself because he says, yeah, no more empire, but then he increases the empire. So he makes no sense. Like I said, he's bumbling along here. But when he happens to say something that has a grain of truth in it, like, yeah, I don't know, let's kind of relax with the whole we run everything and we'll look after Europe and you guys can take care of yourself. The media still flips out over those things, which is annoying because that's something where I feel like everybody on the left should agree and be like, yeah, why are we doing all that when we can't even take care of our own shit? So, accidentally correct on this issue is what I'd say.